What is a message that you would want people to hear?
And there's people out there that want to help. There's organizations out there that people have spent a lot of money to develop and um, help create support systems to help fellow veterans. Don't be afraid to lean on people and ask for help and um, be vulnerable because um, you know, I think you'd be surprised at how much that opens the door when you humanize yourself instead of putting up a facade or wearing a mask. Because I can attest to living that way for far too long and being too prideful and trying to hide my pain. And the more that I lean into the the soft side of myself and the more vulnerable side, it's just been incredible to the connections that I've been able to make and friendships I now have.
So I had the pleasure of speaking to Brandon Danielson. He was one of my guys I served with overseas in Iraq with. He was also a leader to me for years before that even start. Actually, for a year before that started, we had a chance to serve with 9th ESB together. Wonderful guy. He has had a similar but different road that I have had. His passion is about helping people through physical and nutrition. He's been slightly like a role model. I don't want to say slightly. He has been kind of like a role model in a ways where he's just continuously pushing forward. We have actually veered away for some time, but I'm having the ability to reconnect with them. How you doing? How you doing, Brendan?
Doing great. Well, it's good to see you, man.
It's good to see you, dude. It's been almost 19 years since I've actually got a chance to like do a video call with you or
It
see your
has been a
face.
long time. Yes, indeed.
So we were just talking before we jumped on here about our similars, like similar situation. You were talking about being a personal health coach, a personal trainer, and about to become into nutrition. What started you along this venture?
Ever since I was in high school, I wanted to be a personal trainer, but I always talked myself out of it because I didn't see the financial gain or the way to be profitable with that. And over time, I've been linked up with the University of Health and Performance, a veteran based organization that's down in Northwest Arkansas and Oklahoma. And they have multiple courses now, and that's where I got certified through them.
So you said that you thought about this in high school. What I like to do when I'm doing like a full interview with somebody is to hear a little bit about their childhood, where they grew up, what kind of house was it in, like did they play sports, and what was the reasons that you chose to go to the Marine Corps?
So my childhood was interesting. My dad was a car hauler, so he was gone a majority of the time providing for our family, which I'm very grateful for. He allowed my mom to be at home with us kids and raise us when we were young. Didn't really have a lot of influence athletically, though my mom was really good about keeping me involved in sports. I think she saw the value of teamwork and the things that come along with sports and activities. So I played softball and played little league for a couple years. Was on the football team in high school, though I didn't play much. So that's kind of where that started. Once I got into high school and started my body started to develop more, I really had a more fond appreciation for trying to see what my potential was athletically and wanted to pursue that more. I took a volleyball class when I went to college before I joined the Marine Corps and really had a passion for volleyball, and I've been playing that recreationally pretty much my whole adult life. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember us playing volleyball on some of our downtime, and you were a hell of a freaking hitter and a server. It was just very, very unfair.
It was a lot of fun. Always enjoyed that, and since then I've converted now more to pickleball is now my sport of choice. So I've enjoyed that.
You are aging. You are going into that aging area very, very well, I say.
Yeah, I'm converting well into my 40s for sure.
So, what made you decide to join the cult of the United States Marine Corps?
So my dad was a Marine. He served during Vietnam. He, by the sounds of it, he was very gung ho and wanted to go to Vietnam, and ended up being stationed in the Philippines for the duration of his enlistment. Um, so didn't really know that I was going to join. Obviously, 9/11 happened. My senior year was very impactful. And then I had two of my buddies that were joining, and my friend Joel Gelvin approached me one day, and he asked what I was doing with life and if I had any interest, because him and my friend Derek Ferris were going to join the Corps. And so that was our plan, was to join together and um, kind of do that and serve our country. So that's kind of what got the ball rolling.
While you were in the Corps, was there any instrumental things that created a change for you or changed the trajectory of how you viewed the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think the date that stands out for both of us is April 8th, 2006, when we lost Chica. Uh, so those that don't know, Chica, Lance Corporal Juana Navarro Arellano, the only female Marine in our platoon, part of our security platoon in 2006. That was kind of like the turning point in my life, honestly. I talk to people about my time in the Marine Corps and my life story in general. That always is the turning point from kind of when reality set in of what war was, how precious life is, and yeah, just my total outlook on life changed that day.
Yeah, that day changed for me too. I remember that day very, very well. I spent quite a few of my years in my life being able to look at the houses, to look at the scenario, to actually see Chico on the ground and doing the convoy back to the SSTP. And I'm pretty sure that you spent some time actually going over it as well.
Yeah, it's a memory that I don't think will ever fade away. Um, much different than yours, obviously. Um, Me being in the lead vehicle of the convoy, and getting the call after that had happened. By the time we went back on foot and were sprinting back to the scene, she had already been gone. I had just gone by the scene of the incident. So it's crazy to think about how the spacing of everything is, the timing, how quick the reaction was. Um, but yeah, that image will forever be in my mind.
Yeah, it was something that it changed my life, and it was actually a bunch of emotions that I did not know how to process after that. As you know, like as I do, it was we kept a very busy tempo, and if anything, that was less than 2 months when we were in the country, and we still had another 4 more months left to go through everything. And it was just the at least for me, it was I valued life and death very differently.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's a good way to put it. The value of life was always precious to me. Um, but I think the when I look back and tell the story of what happened, um, we'd done many missions leading up to that, even though we were only 2 months in. Um, you know, kind of got used to everybody going out and everybody coming back, and that kind of comfort level of the team that we had, and I think to some degree felt um, on top of the world to some degree. You know, I mean, I thought like we had a good process on how we were approaching our enemies, keeping them at a distance, and you know, when we came back one short, and to never see her again, just really put a stamp on that preciousness of life.
One of the images that haunts me about that day was the last time I saw her alive before they pulled the plug. And that was at the SSTP, and that was beyond seeing her laying on the ground on MSR Michigan. I had something that happened in June of 2020 when I visited my father, and the last time I saw him alive, he was behind a glass wall and they had tubes in him. And I didn't realize that at that time. I didn't know how to process it, but it was like the body actually remembered, the mind remembered while we were there. It didn't. Have you ever actually experienced any of the similarities of or the disassociation after that event?
That's quite a, excuse me. Um, never, I can't say this. Hey, Jordy, Raji, come here. Hey.
I'm actually kind of glad that the dogs are doing that. It's kind of breaking up that serious tone right now.
Yeah. I didn't have that same experience of seeing her in that situation. So to me, not the same. I've had a situation that took me back to Iraq um, last year, actually, which cultivated a lot of feelings and memories. And that was when I had a tornado come through my city. I was actually, I bought my house that I'm in now in September of 23 and was doing some remodeling and stuff. So I had a lot of my belongings in my garage, and I'd just gotten the project wrapped up and was about to start bringing stuff back into my house. And me and my dogs were out in my garage, and the siren went off, and then my phone alarm went off, and I didn't really think much of it. I had no idea that bad weather was coming around, and at that point I was like, hey guys, let's go inside. Went inside, closed my door, and through the window of my door I could see the row of pine trees that I had that were blowing crazy, and I was gonna take a video, and I went to grab my phone, and all of a sudden my garage in one fall swoop just blew away. Um, the the debris and everything in my backyard like hit me in a way that I didn't expect. It took me back to the trash scattered about in Iraq, and um, I think that was a really hard thing for me to process because I was thankful that we lived, that we were safe in the house, but just seeing all the debris and stuff was something that was a bit of a trigger that I took me a little while to process and put a finger on.
Do you see anybody for your mental health still?
Um, Not currently. I saw a psychologist at the Milwaukee VA for probably 2 or 3 years. Went through multiple different treatments, and then just over time, kind of stopped. I, like I said, through the University of Health and Performance has been a big help with processing the experiences that I've gone through. Also, am currently going through a program called the Warrior Path. That's where Shift Happens, this shirt comes from, which is focused on post traumatic growth. So that's been just a wonderful organization, connecting fellow veterans together and really unpacking traumas from our past and having brothers to lean on during challenging times. So um, I'm not opposed to going back to the VA by any means. I really appreciated the doctor that I have. And I know he's there for me at any moment that I want to get back involved if that's what I feel necessary. But um, as I continue to grow, I am trying to lean on my brothers, and close friends, and as of right now, I'm in probably the best mental state that I've been in post Marine Corps. Um, so it's all led up to where I'm at now, but that was definitely a big part of my journey was seeking help through the VA and uh, talking to a psychologist and psychiatrist at one point.
Nice, man. The reason I ask is because over the years I go up and down with them. I'll see somebody, then I'll pull away. I'll see somebody, and I'll pull away. And depending on the transition phases that I'm in, sometimes I'll seek counsel outside of my normal community because it just feels like I can be a lot more vulnerable with them and way more authentic. And it helped me out a lot. And the reason I asked you if you had somebody there because the at least how I used to be was I had that machismo mentality of like, hey, I could do this all alone or suffer in silence.
Hmm.
And suffering in silence for me led me twice in my life, actually almost ending it by my own hands. So I've hence why I'm doing this podcast is normalizing men's mental health to realize that people are there for us and that we can ask for help and that we can reach out to people. And I like how you said that you have a community of people and you also have a therapist that you can rely on.
Yeah, yeah. When I it took me a while to seek help from the VA. When I got back, I had that same mentality, that kind of that persona of that tough guy Marine that, like I didn't want to, I guess, tarnish the image that others saw me as. When I did seek help, I went to the Madison VA. Took virtually no time to diagnose me with PTSD, and their initial thought was medication and pills, and um, not the smartest guy in the world, but I knew that that was not a road that I really wanted to go down, and I turned and ran. Basically, I left that facility without any medication, um, and I didn't go back for probably 4 more years, I'm guessing. At that time, I was working full time, 8 to 5, so seeking help through the VA was not uh, readily accessible working those hours as well. So when I had quit my job, that was one of the things I was like, I need some help, and I'm going to give this another shot, and I'm just going to be more vocal about how I want to approach it. I want to let them know that I want help, but I don't want pills to be the forefront and the only way to approach what I was dealing with.
So what I found out with medication, and I've been off of meds for about 4 years now, and I found with me what it did was it kind of I use it in a more acidic basic sense, the pH scale, and seven being neutral, very similar to water, with water being 7.1. Like what it did was it slowed down or stunted how far out my emotional swings can go from depression to anxiety.
Mm.
And I did a 13-week residential program back in Long Island back in 2021 and really dredged through a lot of my own mental shortcomings. April 8th, then it went from April 8th to other days that happened, some of the stuff that happened by the OK Corral to like being always hyper vigilant. It was just nonstop. And when it was actually being able to, but April 8th was for me was the turning point. It was when I actually turned off my emotions and it was just like, hey, it's just time to do a job. It's just time to do a job. I want people to come home alive. And like you said, it was the day that when we came back missing one.
Yeah, yeah, that was a big turning point, and kind of circling back a little bit. Um, you know, I turned away from the medication, and I turned to self medicating for a long period of time. Like when I first got back, basically a party animal. I mean, a lot of my friends back home were big drinkers. Being in Wisconsin, it's very prevalent. So I was just getting blackout drunk and numbing the pain, avoiding trying to talk about anything that happened. I didn't allow my family to help me, because I had the mindset like they wouldn't understand. They didn't experience what I did. It's there's no use in even talking to them, because what are they going to be able to do for me? And smoked a lot of weed for many years, and that also led to isolation. I turned to Mary Jane, became my best friend. I mean, as I got older and my friends had families, like the time of hanging out and stuff became less and less, and that was something that was easy for me to turn to help kind of suppress those feelings and emotions. So that was the way that I had dealt with my issues for a long time. So yeah, about 3.5 years ago, February 10th, 2022 is when that was the last time I had a drink of alcohol. And I just recently quit smoking weed October 2nd of this year. Um, it's also a big part of why I'm talking to you today, is because I respect you first and foremost, and the your platform, and I wanted to come on with a clear mind, and really be able to be honest about my story, my journey, and kind of what led me to where I'm at right now.
It's Thank you for the honesty, man. It's Mary Jane used to be a good friend of mine that I used to enjoy before I went to sleep. And same thing with alcohol. Alcohol used to be the thing to help me sleep at night. At one point in my life, you know, when we came back from Iraq when I came back from Iraq my first time, I was trying to drink a bottle of Southern Comforts that I had, not one of those little ones, like not like the 750s. I was trying to drink the whole handle, and last thing I remember, I did a backflip butt naked into the pool, and I was just trying to put my left shoe on, and then everything else went black. And I say this stuff is that's who I used to be, and I had so much guilt and shame inside my heart. I was my buddy's wife now. I wasn't. She had to help me out with other areas of my life during that night, and all. I wish I could have been Will. I wish I could have been. Hey, like I see what's going on, but I feel as if I was to tell you about the things that haunt me or the things I feel off about. Like you guys could tell me about 7 months of your life, and then all of a sudden I can't tell you anything. It's not because it was secret, but it was also sacred. And then if I was to share this, would you think I'm a monster? Would you think I'm evil? Would you be able to love me? Am I a lovable person?
Hmm.
And so I've had my journeys with Jack at one point, and then it became Jameson. And the biggest turning point for me, like, was actually the second time I almost took the top of my head off with a shotgun. And what I realized post acute psychiatric, post 13 weeks of residential was I'm going to give you me. And since I've been giving people who I really am, I've been actually being able to be fully loved because I look at it as I'm giving you a mask, so you can only partially love me, and you can only love me through the mask. You can't love
Hmm.
me. And what I've learned is that radical acceptance, radical vulnerability, it's I'm able to be around. So that's why I tried to do this platform to be very, very raw. And I shared with you I was married at one point. I was in a long term relationship with another person that I lived with in Colorado. And part of my journey is actually push people away. And I realized that by not communicating well or not being able to get that permission, it suffocated.
Yeah, I've been down that road a time or two. I got married 12 days before our first deployment to a fellow Marine, female type, obviously. And that was a huge struggle because coming back, she had PCS while we were deployed and went to Yuma, Arizona. Um, like I never had the time to grieve Chica's loss. And um, I had to volunteer to go to her unit because her unit was deploying back to Iraq. They wanted to send me to Pendleton to ride out the rest of my um, 4 years. I was like, no, I was like, I haven't seen my wife in I think 8 months at that point, 9 months. I was like, no, I want to go. And so I went from Iraq, checked out of Okinawa, went to Yuma, had a build up, and was just training. And then we deployed to Iraq again. Well, during my second deployment, my first wife she'd gotten a Red Cross message. Her younger brother had gotten in a single car accident, and we were both able to go um, back to Texas where her family was, and for 2 weeks, and literally just watched. He never regained consciousness. We watched him pass away, and that just totally was so horrible because I had the Marine Corps mentality of hey, the mission continues. Basically suck it up. We got to go back, and so I didn't give her any time to grieve. I was very insensitive towards her, and it just turned into resentment, and was never able to regain the traction for our marriage, and so that was pretty much finalized as I was getting out. I was married again. That was actually a really good marriage for the most part. She was very good to me, um, very understanding. Her dad was a Vietnam vet. He was drafted and fought in the Tet Offensive. So I think that was very helpful. That she never kind of pushed the envelope with things and was very understanding. And there's a lot of just personal things that ended up um, where I chose to leave that marriage. But um, yeah, it's been a struggle to maintain relationships for me, um, and it's tough, man, because I think that's what we all want. We all want to be loved. We all want to love, and in today's day and age, it's harder and harder to connect with people. It's a lot different than when we were in our 20s and pursuing women. It's just a lot different. So um, I'm thankful for my faith. I mean, that's been a big transition in my life to kind of help me process everything and have somewhere to turn to, regardless of what's happening in my life. So just putting it in God's hands and remaining faithful that He's preparing a woman for me at this point.
First off, thank you very much for being this honest. It's the thing that I was thinking about while you were talking about you say you were being insensitive. Just curious, were you wanting to get back to your guys, your unit, to be able to be a protector?
Honestly, the insensitive part more than anything was um, I was really sexually driven, and I was very sex deprived at that point, coming off of deployment and being gone, and then leading up. There was not a lot of time for intimacy and time to cultivate our marriage in that way. Um, I I was very concerned about her as well, though it wasn't perceived that way through my action. It was selfish desires. You know, it's a lot easier for me to look back and recognize my shortcomings and take accountability for how I treated her and um, didn't really process the fact that she was literally watching her brother lose his life. Um, yeah, I mean, I had the mission at hand back in Iraq, um, but I was just thinking in the wrong ways, and um, just had a lot of selfish desires at that point.
When you So this is something interesting. It's a lot of times guys, especially how I felt for years, was the way that we actually are able to get closer to somebody is by having sex with them. And having that physical intimacy was the way to get to spearhead that relationship. And what I've learned from talking to this, like many different, like talking to a bunch of therapists by doing this podcast, but then also what kind of work I do. And I realized it's a way that comes off like we're being very greedy, but a lot of times we don't know how to articulate what we need. Like, hey, if we have sex, that means that we're both doing good, and it's like almost like the self validation and the aspect of her brother dying and watching her brother die. That was probably the furthest thing from her brain, which was like, hey, I want this, and it's like you're also struggling mentally to be validated or to be seen. That's how I would take it, but it's two people not communicating well. No offense, Danielson, but being in the Marines and then coming back from Iraq, I don't think either of us were communicating very well.
No.
And then all of a sudden seeing another human that we're supposed to love, and then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know how to fucking love. Let's just try to do something about this, and it's rough.
Yeah, and just losing another. I mean, at that point, he was my brother-in-law. You know, he was also family, and I grew up with sisters. Man, I had two sisters and twin stepsisters. My dad's second wife had another stepsister when I was younger. So that was the first time I had brothers, you know, and I didn't get to have a close relationship just because of the distance with them, but um, it was also hard, and that was my mentality at that point was just to try to do something that felt good, to try and cover up the pain of another loss. I mean, that was two two losses in less than a year, or just over a year, I guess. Um, and I didn't know how to process. I had no idea how to process that kind of loss, and I just had the void, and that was just where my mind went. Was I know I like that feeling. I'm married now. I feel good about that. You're the one that I can turn to. We haven't had time. Now we're not in combat. We're away. We have the opportunity, and that's where I went. And um, yeah, I regret that. Looking back, I feel really bad that that was my approach and that I had those thoughts. But that's just the facts, man. That's where I was at that point in my life.
So the relationship that's being finalized when you're getting out of the Marine Corps, is this one of the reasons that you started seeking for mental health in the beginning, or what was the what was the catalyst that created the desire to get help?
Um, I think I just started to recognize through my behavior and blackout drinking. I mean, I'm just so not proud of who I was. I mean, I remember there was a time that I was driving drunk and I literally like was falling asleep at a stoplight and I like came to and I look over and this old woman is looking at me and she's just shaking her head. And I think that was probably the moment where I was like, I need some help. Like this is not right. This is not who I want to be. And the last thing I want to do is hurt anybody, by my poor choices. And um I'm thankful that I never did. Um I got a DUI 3 months, 2 months after I got out of the Marine Corps. Um I mean I was just like I said, I was just a wild man, dude. I was just trying to cope in a way that I was comfortable with, and that's what it was. And um, yeah, I just think that that moment of realization, like, man, do you see that? That's like my grandma looking at me in disgust, and it's like, okay, you better do something before you do kill somebody. And so yeah, that's kind of when I leaned into seeking help.
What was the changing point when you decided to go for your second time? Like you said that you worked with the psychologist and psychiatrist for about 4 years. What uh what motivated you that time to go back?
So when I initially went, there's no treatment. I didn't talk to anybody, and then like 4 or 5 years had passed. Um, I think at that point, I think I had a blow up with my second wife, and she was not a very emotional woman, but I remember we were out in Vegas. I had this trip for work, and I just was getting crazy, and um, I don't even know what upset me, but I got really really mad, and I never hurt her, um, but I was like slamming my hand down on the table, and I actually cracked my tungsten wedding ring, and I don't know if you know about tungsten, but it's a very very hard metal, and I cracked it, but I didn't crack it all the way through. Um, and I think that following morning, like she was emotional and just told me that like something's got to change. You know what I mean? Like um, that's not who she married. That's not who she wanted to be with. And um, it's things started to become a little bit clearer that like yeah, once again, like man, you need help. You need to do something before you lose a good woman.
It's fucking rough. It's my ex-wife, the one I was married to. The things that were warning signs. I don't know if you have ever woke up where you were choking somebody or you hit somebody when you were asleep, but I've woken up several times like that, and I wish I actually was able to get help back down in that time. It wasn't being drunk and being abusive, but looking back now with the eyes that I have, I was like, wow, that was a fucking red flag, dude. Why didn't you get help? Dude, having two different beds would have been work. No, that's just pushing the problem down the road.
Mm,
And yeah, it's rough because you know the person really loves you. And you know the person really saw you for you. And at least for me, it was like, wow, I really hurt this person this much that they had to walk away with love because they couldn't actually handle this anymore. And so much guilt and shame comes from that, but it's just it's really just another layer or another sliver on top of it, the shit that we didn't process back then. Being, like I said, being stuck in a fragmented time. I still get dreams, but my dreams now are I'm searching dead bodies and I'm trying to find a freaking rifle. And I'm like, that never happened to me overseas. Never actually needed to go look for mags off of a person.
Mm,
But it's like, it's interesting about certain anniversaries, certain days, certain smells just bring us back to a time. And what I've actually found to help me was actually finding a little bit of, how would I say, gratitude for what I have right now and kindness to my old self when it keeps trying to come through.
yeah, I think giving ourselves grace is a very important aspect of healing, and acknowledging. I think a big thing that I learned actually out in Warrior Path out in Utah, um, was like nothing's wrong with us. It's what happened to us, and we experience things that aren't normal. I mean, like most people don't have the experiences that we have, and I'm thankful. I mean, like I tell people all the time, like I joined the Marine Corps. Part of it was because I wanted my family and friends to be safe. I didn't want them to have to worry about getting attacked or getting shot or getting blown up. Like I was willing to fight the war as long as I knew that my family would be safe. Yeah, yeah. I was giving ourselves grace is a big aspect because um, holding on to that weight that we carry and shame and guilt, whatever feelings that we as individuals carry from our own experiences, um, they don't serve us moving forward. We have to find ways to unpack that and unload the weight and process what our experiences were in that time frame and acknowledge like that's not who we are now.
Yeah, yeah. I find finding grace, finding love, finding compassion. It's the past. It was the information that we had up to that moment. The moments that after followed, it changed our view. The way that we have processed things have changed our viewpoints on it. I beat the fuck out of myself so many times back in the past of, hey, why the hell did you think about this? What did you miss? What was this? What was that? And it really took the time to actually just be in a place where Dr. David Gately, he was the psychologist that really helped me through this, where I wrote down that day, and then reread that what I wrote down every single time until I didn't cry anymore.
Mm,
And it wasn't about taking the emotions out of it. It was understanding where the emotions were. And then I had to write down what emotions did I feel at all these different points. And when I actually wrote those things down, I started to really understand what happened that day. What happened to me physiology of what was happening inside my body, mentally, emotionally. And then I had to write down what was the behaviors that was orchestrated after that. Part of when we are not able to discuss something or we're not able to give that information, it becomes stuck. And then what we do is that we create behaviors to protect ourselves from being vulnerable or being able to express or share these things. And when that happened for me, it's been a godsend. I don't know if you saw, but I put up a video. It was Thursday before this one, so it was the 24th. No, the 23rd. I did a talk about peer specialist over for Nami, Montana, and they had me be a guest speaker for an hour.
mm,
And it was just, it was interesting because I was able to share that day, that time, and how do we actually learn how to give ourselves grace, and how do we help therapists understand that it's not just a plug and play formula of how we need to process, but we need to slow down, and our setbacks are our own setbacks.
mm, yeah.
So, go ahead.
No.
No, you got this.
Oh, I was just thinking of just different moments that were impactful in the healing. That's another sad one. You know, what I mean, when Phillips committed suicide, I went down to Indy for his funeral, and um, Mike was the only other one that made it down there. And God, at that point, I hadn't seen him since deployment. And for those that don't know, Mike Suskin, he was our staff sergeant. He's the man, to put it lightly. He was the guy that was our leader that we all just had a tremendous amount of respect for. He he was in my truck for every deployment that I was, or um, every op that we were out on. Um, but I got to hear more his story and his struggles, and um, it kind of lightened the load a little bit to realize, he'd been put on like tons of pills for everything, pills to wake up, pills to go to sleep, like everything you could name. I think he put on like 100 pounds, and he went dark. He didn't communicate with any of us because he was just in such a dark place, and just didn't want us to see him in that light. But that day was incredibly impactful to me. I was so happy that he was still there, that he showed up, and that he was doing so much better. I think that's part of the struggle for you, for all of us. We've had two losses from brothers since deployment, and um, you know, that's why when I started seeing you do this podcast, like I wanted this day to come, because if our conversation can help one person and lead them to seeking help in whatever way they see it, whether that be finding the Lord, going to the VA, finding UHP or the Warrior Path or some other veteran organization, something to help them. DMing me, talking to you, coming on your podcast, so many different outlets of knowing that, like, we're here for you, whether we know you personally or not. Like, man, hit me up at any time if you're struggling, because um, we are a brotherhood. Like, that's why we're the few, the proud, and once Marine, always Marine. Um, like, that's how we get through this, is through being vulnerable, being open, and we're not the only one.
You said Phillips when you talked about him completing. When I found out about that, I was actually on the East Coast and I was visiting some friends and my mother. What I like to do, even when I go visit people I haven't seen in a while, or back then I used to, is go take some time and go out to a brewery by myself. I just take some time to myself. I went over to Farmer's Brewery or Farm Stand Brewery, something like that, and I ordered a drink. And I got the message over our security platoon chat,
Mm.
and I was like halfway done with this beer. I was like, I want another one, and I had quite a few drinks that night. He completed suicide in January of 22, if I remember correctly.
Sounds about
And
right.
yeah, Mike is, like you said, Mike. He is the man. He was the man when we needed him to. And something that he said was, "It's time to do a mission. It's time to mourn." And when we all separated, the thing that really freaking sucked, that at least that's how I feel. We might be safe because we're at home, but whew, being at home around people that we're supposed to love, it was one of the most lonely experiences I have ever felt in my life.
Mm.
It was like a walking ghost, just trying to survive that. You mentioned before about how finding God has actually been a huge saving grace for you. Mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah. So shortly after I separated from my second wife, um, I was playing volleyball. There's an open gym in a town nearby on Friday nights that I've gone to off and on for probably 20 years now. Um, and a friend of mine who also has been playing, he's like 15 years older than I am. Great volleyball player, but he was also, he knew my ex-wife and I both, and he kind of knew that we had separated, and he knew that I was struggling. He could just see it. And um, in between games, we normally just shoot the breeze and talk whatever, talk ball. And he literally just came up, put his hand on my shoulder. He just said some words from the Bible. I don't even know what it was, um, but it was touching, to say the least. And he invited me to his church. And um, at that point, I was already trying to seek something, because I just felt a void in my life. But I took him up on that, and I went there, and I've been going there ever since. And it just opened a whole new world. I mean, my friend group has changed drastically. I had another friend, a guy that's 72 years old now, that I met playing pickleball. He invited me to a Bible study. Him and like 4 or 5 guys have been getting together for like 40 years studying the Bible. And he invited me to that. And same thing. I just leaned into it. I was like, all right, been going to that for, I don't know, probably a year and a half maybe. And just really, really pouring into that and making sense of the world. And it's challenging because you're looked at differently. I think when you walk with God, there's judgment. There's all sorts of different thoughts that people have, and I'm not here to push things on anybody, but I can share the impact that it's had on my life, and it's been tremendous. I mean, it's been really, really eye opening to be able to, quote unquote, like, leave it at the altar. I mean, like, any problems, any issues that I can, or that I experience, just having somewhere to turn to, and always having that constant. It's just opened a whole new set of doors of relationships. It's provided different opportunities for me. I've helped with children's ministry. I mean, I've wanted to have kids for many years, and my ex-wife and I struggled to have kids. That was a big reason for our divorce, was I still wanted to pursue that. And have provided an outlet for me to spend time with kids and have a positive influence with that. Um, I help operate the cameras occasionally at church, which is something that I had no idea that I had any interest in, but I really, really enjoy that aspect of camera work. And where things go with that, I don't know. Maybe there'll be more opportunities down the road to do that in a professional setting. But it's just it's just been a game changer. I mean, I have been getting better about reading the Bible more consistently. Like, I have a small goal. Like, I start my day with a warm glass of lemon water with cinnamon and honey, and I read a chapter out of the Bible. And those that follow on my socials, I try to be pretty consistent on posting that stuff, um, just because it's just impactful. And like I said, to me, it's no different than my journey with health and wanting to help people. Anything that's been beneficial and helpful to me, I don't want to be the gatekeeper. I want to share it with the world. And, you know, if people choose to follow, that's great. I mean, like, ultimately, I think that's part of my purpose, is to share the gospel and share the word of God. Um, because without God, I wouldn't be sober. And there's no way I would be where I'm at without the Lord, man. I can I can attest to that.
It's fucking awesome, dude. Love it. I've actually started reading the Bible or listening to the Bible. I've been invited to several men's groups. One of the groups that I plan on trying to get to is a 7:30 or 7:30 morning on a Friday with these guys.
Mm,
I've been waiting until I left the VA to be able to join them because they're veterans I interact with. And what I've actually learned from a bunch of different guys I've talked to is about how God saved their life. But it's also the brotherhood, the men's Bible studies, and the groups of those guys that get together, the similarities, the understanding, the connection and community. And I've had a gripe with the church for a very long time. And when I say the church, I'll say Christianity in general. And what I learned is I won't find God in church. I'll find other sinners in church that are trying to be the best versions of themselves.
amen.
It was uh it was a couple of Mormons that said this to me first, and then I heard this pretty much almost verbatim from somebody else. I went to a different church, and they said the same thing. And I realized that I have to study the Bible or read the Bible and learn and read and understand what the messages are being said. If I believe by sitting my ass in a church on a pulpit, I'm only understanding what a man's interpretation is. It's not the
Hmm.
message that God is trying to give me. It's been interesting because we talk, not just you and I, but we think about our mental and our physical, but we don't always talk about the spiritual. And the
Hmm.
spiritual to me is where moralities come into. And moralities are really the emphasis on our emotions of how we're starting to view the world. I did not know what kind of conversation we were going to have today, but it's very somber, I will say. You're very real, very raw, and also very it's not reserved. You have a peaceful aura about you.
Thank the good Lord, man. It's not always been like this. I can tell you that. I'm blessed. And I am very blessed in many ways. I'm very thankful because I've had those dark days, man. I have had some really, really challenging times in my life, and I had reasons to end it and to give up, man. And I'm just thankful that he's stuck by my side, man, and he was there when I needed it. He's put people in my life. Um, you know, this is not a coincidence that we're speaking today, brother. You know, I mean, like it's all orchestrated, man. It's all part of the plan. Um, and I'm thankful, man. I'm super proud of you, Will. Like, I want the world to know, like, you talk about me being a role model, like, full circle, brother, man. I really look up to you for what you're doing. I'm just very grateful for being able to have a conversation with you, man. It's so great to see your face, dude. It's been a great time.
It is. I was supposed to see you at Kuhn's funeral, and then I was actually going to be missing everything with the flight and the weather out to Denver from Montana. And Kuhn's funeral, that was kick. When I found out about his passing, it was a kick. I know of two that have passed, and that would be Kuhn and Phillips. And then there's a few people that I question if have anybody has heard from them, which would be Lynn and Saddlery and a few others. But it's the shit that we went through. I feel like I wish I kept in touch with you, and I wish I kept in touch with the guys. That it was such a different experience. War was such a different experience. And I went back for my second time because I felt like that was the only place that I felt normal. And even being in the Marines, like the regular Marine Corps, I didn't feel normal. I had a hard time adjusting. I felt so alone, even though I was surrounded by Marines. And I'm like, yeah, I really do appreciate you, man. I really do. And I'm looking forward to being more in touch with you. And I also want to hear more about the physical health journey and the nutrition journey of how that impacts the brain, and also how that is super impactful for the mental health. And as you and I know, it's sometimes that becomes second or third on the list about really caring about ourselves because we put everything else first.
Yeah, I mean, our health is all we got, man. You know what I mean? Like it's the main thing. You know what I mean? It allows us to keep our independence. You know what I mean? The number one thing that puts people in nursing homes is the inability to wipe their own butt. You know what I mean? You know, if you let your physical well-being get away from you, you know, life just gets harder. You know, the pain gets worse. You know, the mental side of thing, like integrative health coaching, just is on behavior change and finding ways to accomplish the goals and things that you really want to do in life with alignment to your values. I think that's a huge game changer is integrative health coaching, which is not really talked about all that much. The nutrition aspect, you know, what you put in your body matters, and the foods that we're getting at the stores are they're less nutrient dense than they used to be. There's so many foods that shouldn't even be considered food. There's so many chemicals and stuff in so many products. Um, so yeah, the next few weeks down at the University of Health and Performance, going through the pilot culinary nutrition course, I'm really excited to gain knowledge and learn more about nutrition myself. Just growing food, prepping food, coaching food, and the business side. You know, they've been working on this course for over a year, and I'm really excited for what's ahead for that aspect of my life. But yeah, I think if you really want to live your best life, you need to stay active, and that's different for everybody. You know, the main thing that I tell people is, you know, you got to find something that you like. If that's pickleball, if that's lifting weights, if that's yoga, if that's Zumba, you know what I mean? Like whatever it is, like find something because we all like doing something. Maybe it's dancing, you know what I mean? Like just find something that's going to get you moving, that's going to get your heart rate up, and because if you like it, you're going to keep doing it, and you're going to be surrounded by people that have at least that common interest with you, and you can build relationships from that. And, you know, things just compound. You know, the pickleball community has been a game changer for me. You know, a lot of people look at it like it's a old man or old person sport, but it's not, man. It is really evolved. You know, I just met with a coach here in town this morning and was talking about, you know, showing her, and she's like, "Oh, my husband and my kids could play." It's like, absolutely. You know, what I mean, there's people from 5 years old into their 90s that are able to play, and you know, it's just one aspect of activity that is tremendously impactful for people, and I implore people to find something that they really like to keep their body moving.
So, you want to know an interesting fact about pickleball?
Say it.
The average age of a pickleball player is 34.8 years old.
Wow.
And what you just said too is something that we don't always put into perspective. It's young to adults. It's to elderly to young people. We can jokingly say, yeah, it's this type of game. It's way more accurate, way more active than playing bocce ball. It's way more active than playing shuffleboard. And you're getting 60, 70, even sometimes 80-year-olds playing this game. And I say honestly, after I ruptured my Achilles and had it reattached, I've been so ambivalent about running and playing other sports. And I ruptured my Achilles playing ultimate frisbee of all sports, and that is hysterical too, to me. But so the last question I'll have for you for this time, and I'd love to do another one with you sometime soon, is what is a message that you will want people to hear?
Man, there's people out there that want to help. You know, there's organizations out there that people have spent a lot of money to develop and um, help create support systems to help fellow veterans and not just veterans. I just speak on that because that's what we are. Um, but I mean, like, don't be afraid to lean on people and ask for help and um, be vulnerable because um, you know, I think you'd be surprised at how much that opens the door when you humanize yourself instead of putting up a facade or wearing a mask. Because I can attest to living that way for far too long and being too prideful and trying to hide my pain. And the more that I lean into the the soft side of myself and the more vulnerable side, it's just been incredible to the connections that I've been able to make and friendships I now have. Um, so yeah, man, don't be too proud. Lean on your people. You know, be I'd say be willing and open to seeking God as well. That's a big message that I want to stay true to my faith and give the glory to God, and um, He's always there for you.
Danielson, I appreciate it, man. And glory to God. That's an interesting fact. 2020, the average age was 41 years old, so it keeps dropping.
That's my age now. Yeah. A quick fun fact. Yeah, I started just less than 2 years ago playing, and I got beat by a guy in his 80s. So I mean, like, it was very humbling, but also just made me hungry to learn and improve and work on skills. So it's a great sport, man.
Yeah, it's a great sport, and you're never too old to get in touch with God. You're never too old to start working on your mental health. You're never too old to start working on your nutrition, your physical. We have one body. We have one real choice at this. There's no restart, no reset, and being the best version of ourselves will help out everybody else that loves us and everybody that we love.
Amen, brother.
Thank you, Daniel.
You're welcome, brother.